following takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Present security in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FBC Radio Live. It's Monday, January the 10th. We are officially into the NFL postseason. That's right, Week 18 came to a thrilling and very, very exciting and predictable close last night with the coaching styles of one Mr. Brandon Staley. But yeah, what a wild way to end Week 18 and end the season. I mean, we started the season off with a pretty thrilling Buccaneers and Cowboys matchup, one that ended in a Tom Brady comeback victory, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But we bookend it with a absolutely wild and absurd back and forth win and get in situation between the Raiders and Chargers, and it lived up to the billing there, John.
It sure did. I mean, that was one of the most drama-filled game I've seen in the regular season in years. I mean, I've been watching football a long time. We know they're rivals. They're in the same division. Because everybody was playing around with, should the Raiders move from Oakland to LA? Should the Chargers go to Vegas? The Chargers end up in LA. So there's a lot of, friction between the two organizations, and they were fighting for the final spot. Unless, if they tied, they both would have made it, which it certainly looked like they were going to tie. And then Brandon Staley decided to, crash the party and call a timeout. Because from everything we've heard, right after the game, Rich Bisaccia, the interim head coach of the Raiders, who probably should be named permanent head coach, right? I mean, he went 7-5, got his team into 7-5 after Gruden got fired with a team that's been, a lot of chaos this year, right? And he's kind of steadied the ship in the playoffs. But he essentially said after the game, he didn't say we were playing for the tie, but it certainly sounded like it. And both teams would have got in. Pittsburgh would have been out. We would have been able to see Justin Herbert one more game as opposed to Ben Roethlisberger. That's a disappointment that Roethlisberger's in there instead of the brilliant young Justin Herbert. The only thing I'll say is I think it benefited the Raiders to win that game. If it ended in a tie, the Raiders would have had to go on to KC and just, they've been blown out twice by the Chiefs this year. Instead, they're going to Cincinnati. So I could get that back in my mind that the Raiders still wanted to win that game. But Brandon Staley was the most newsworthy person on the field last night. Can we agree on that?
Well, I'd say outside of Justin Herbert, because I thought he was,
he's awesome.
Doing some of the things that he was doing was pretty awesome, and this was definitely a plus. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of reasons, and anyone who's listened to the show knows my disdain for some of his coaching decisions, and look, one of them really came back to bite him in the rear end yesterday, because you make that decision early on to go for the the fourth down in your own end zone, and I know someone tweeted the winning probability was actually higher if you went for it, and it just made me laugh, because again, that kind of puts into perspective how I feel about decision making analytics. I feel stats are far more useful after the fact to put things into maybe a little bit better context, whereas using these predictive models to somehow absolve bad coaching decisions is just absurd to me, and I think we're getting a little bit too comfortable doing that, or at least a large segment of people are doing it, because let's face it, Brandon Staley cost this team a division. He cost him multiple games, and he cost him again yesterday, because I don't care about, it did go to overtime, all this, that, and the other. I mean, I'm not going to play the what if game, what happens or what happened after the fact. Like, making that decision was bad. I don't care what the outcome was. I don't care what happened in the moment. It was a bad decision. And any other explanation to the contrary is just wrong. And again, is apologetic for a coach who I think is clearly holding this team back.
Without question. I mean, I kind of feel for Justin Herbert, who we all know is my heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's just sensational. I deal with throws he was making last night. All I could think of is John Elway in his prime. That game-tying touchdown to Mike Williams. Oh, my Lord, that was just an absolute missile. And at that point, Now, if you're Brandon Staley and you're this gunslinger and you're in Vegas, why not? Roll craps, pull the slot machine. Why not go for 2 in that situation? If you're that far in and up the what of analytics, why just kick the extra point? Go for 2 and end the game right there. I mean, if you're really ballsy. I mean, he went for 2 when they were down 15, which I thought made sense only because you do have more time. And I know Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth were talking about that. Why is he going for 2 down 15? But I kind of like that because now all you need is a touchdown, extra point to tie it. But go for 2 there. What the hell? Why not? You go for fourth and 1 from your 17. And I don't understand the part of how the winning percentage goes up if you make that 4th and 1 from your 17. Okay, so you make it, you're at your 20. Like, does that mean you're guaranteed to score on that drive? Like, I don't even understand how that comes about. And you're down 3 points. So, again, risk reward. That's kind of like the whole fact of life. Well, way too much risk for any reward you're going to get in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's foolish. It's a bad coaching decision. I don't care what analytics, what stat you can pull up, what situation. It's bad. It's a bad coaching decision that at the end of the day, they lose a game on a field goal in overtime. Where, if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm pissed off. If I'm Justin Herbert, I'm teed off and all that because like this is a team that maybe should have been the AFC West champions. Think about it. Like to me, it's frustrating because like we're seeing this more and more, and coaches just aren't getting criticized for it. And it's chalked up to just blind acceptance of analytics or situational analytics when reality of it is it's coaching decisions are what makes those analytics. It's not a blind devotion to these set of numbers. It's the collection of decisions made by good coaches and bad coaches over the course of however many years of data you want to apply to this. But it's about those. It's not about blindly following analytics. So. So anyways, it was a mess, and unfortunately, we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna see more Ben Roethlisberger and less Justin Herbert. But you know what? If I'm the Raiders, like, and I know a lot of people saying like, why didn't they go for the tie? Look, why would I ever want to help a division rival get into the playoffs under any circumstance? I mean, think about it. Like, I mean, we're playing a sport. You're playing a sport at the highest level. And that's coaching, that's special teams, offense, defense, doesn't matter. If you're in the NFL, you're playing at the highest level. And you're going to, in a situation where you can win. I'm not talking about like if they're backed up on the 10-yard line and with like 30 seconds left. Like at that point, yeah, obviously, probably play for the tie. But you're talking about borderline field goal position and a chance to knock out one of your division rivals, like the hot team of the AFC West all season. And you're not going to take that? Like, I don't care about, oh, well, they could have just tied. It was the safe play. That's a point where you be aggressive. Because you know what? I'm petty like that. Like, what? Like, if I'm the Patriots, say the Patriots and it's the Patriots and Bills, same exact situation. You think Patriots fans and the Patriots would want to help the Bills get into the playoffs when they could have, tried to win? Worst case scenario, yes. You go for the field goal, it gets blocked, returned, and you lose. Yes, that's a risk you take. But that is far down on the list of possibilities that, that's kind of like the only possibility that comes back to bite you because you're not going to have enough time to run into field goal position if you're the Chargers and you block it. If you miss the field goal, the game's still tied, and you still make the playoffs. So to me, if I'm the Raiders, of course I'm going to try to win this game because why not? Why would I want to help the Chargers get into the playoffs? So I was actually
I would want to win it only because now you're playing Cincinnati instead of Kansas City. Also, it was a 44-yard field goal, and Carlson has never missed a field goal in that stadium in 2 years. So you feel comfortable with that. Now, if they don't get the first down and it's a 54-yard field goal, now you got to kind of weigh that there is a chance of a block and a return. And yeah, I get it. You don't want your division rival making the playoffs as well. Maybe I'm just an old guy and I'm thinking back too far, but the Steelers and Raiders don't exactly have a great relationship either. So now the Steelers are in. So I think you just have to kind of play this for yourself. Like, obviously it was Rich Bisaccia's job to get his team into the playoffs, whether it was through a win or a tie. And it's kind of interesting that here's a guy who made the playoffs who probably won't get rehired as head coach, and there's Brandon Staley who just messed up multiple games this year.
Mm-hmm.
We remember a month ago he should have beat Kansas City, which could have potentially given him the division championship over the Chiefs, and they're not even in the playoffs. And yet, a lot of people are lauding him because, this is the new school method of coaching. And I just loved listening to Rex Ryan today because he just was ready to throw something. He's like, so this guy's smarter than Lombardi, Paul Brown, Belichick, Parcells, Joe Gibbs, Joe Walsh, Bill Walsh. Like, he's smarter than all these guys who would have punted on 4th and 1 from his own 17.
I know,
they
right?
were only down 3 at that point, Ian. And it was early in the third quarter. It wasn't like a desperate situation. Just punt the ball.
Yeah.
And live to play another day.
No, that's exactly we're going to disagree on a lot of things moving forward here on the show, but that I'm right there with you because first of all, I know everyone was rooting for the tie, and it, from an impossible situation to just improbable situation, it would have been interesting to see that. But at the back of my mind, and as much as I would have loved to see Justin Herbert, I was like, I don't reward this dummy for doing everything in his power to lose this game and others.
Yep.
And I'm at the end of the day, I'm happy. At the end of the day, I am happy the Raiders went for it. I'm happy they went for the field goal. I'm happy they won the game, and I'm happy that they didn't just allow their division rivals and Brandon Staley off the hook, because now you have an entire offseason to think about this. Now you have the last memory in your mind was a game in which he made some foolish decisions that ultimately cost this team a win, and it's not the first time. So hopefully, if you're the Chargers, if you're the fan base, his hot seat gets a little bit hotter throughout this offseason because I think he deserves it. And that's
if your ownership, don't you sit down. I mean, I don't think you fire the guy because you get a long-term deal and they're one of the cheapest organizations in all of football. But do you bring in? I've always thought that especially these young head coaches need a veteran coach by their side who's coached before.
Look,
and it doesn't have to be a great head coach.
Real quick,
bring in a consigliere. Bring in a guy that's just kind of been there, done that.
If you need someone like that, you're not ready to be a head coach. You're not ready.
Well,
I mean, look.
I don't think anybody's ready to be a head coach because it's something new. What I'm talking about is just a consigliere, just someone who there I can reference The Godfather, but someone who's gonna who you can bounce ideas. Everybody needs that.
One reference a show. No. You can reference The Godfather anytime you want. You're never going to get pushback from me on that one. No, but that's the thing though. Think about it. If you need someone there to help you make decisions, are you just not ready to be a head coach? Well, that tells me you need to spend more time learning how to make decisions. I understand that. Did Bill Belichick have Ernie Adams for 30 years? I mean, that was kind of his consigliere up in the booth, just to kind of bounce things off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not saying that. Not to say it's your decision. I don't want to make it. I'll get this off my plate. But just someone you can bounce ideas off of. I think everybody kind of needs. But Joe Torre won 4 World Series with Don Zimmer sitting next to him. Bouncing ideas off someone and having someone support or help your poor decision making is two different things, in my opinion. Like Bill Belichick and every coach has multiple. Their position coaches, their scouts, there's front office personnel. All these people are available and have input and can bounce ideas off of. But and maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but to have someone like an assistant coach, a veteran, like you said, a veteran coach, have to be part of the package with Brandon Staley, then in my opinion, he's just not ready to be a coach. Because I understand you're not going to know everything when you first take over, and certainly Bill Belichick learned a lot along the way. But I don't think Bill Belichick. If you had to go out and hire if Robert Kraft had to go out and hire a veteran coach, maybe who knows? I'm going back 22 years to try to think who was the veteran coaches. Well, they did bring in Dom Capers as a head coach in waiting in case Belichick got suspended. In 2008. We're talking a different
about
situation. We're talking about a completely opposite.
But
Ernie Adams
was the guy.
He was an advisor. But that's different. That's different though. I mean, what you were suggesting to begin with was essentially an assistant coach, veteran,
No, no,
to
no, no.
help.
Just someone, even during the week, just someone that's there that's done it before, like just someone who's been in that position. It can be like again, Don Zimmer with Joe Torre, who sat by his side, and just someone that half the time the guy is just someone you go out to dinner with, who is just your friend. Every NBA staff has that. I think there's a problem with the Celtics that Ime Udoka does not have one coach on his staff that's been a head coach before in the NBA.
I mean, that's
that
certainly
helps you
fair.
along.
It's just like having veterans on a team. But at the end of the day, though, I think coaches need to do the most with the least amount of help. Head coaches, and that's what makes a great head coach in this league, because there's so much involved in this league that if you need guys to help prop you up beyond just having good. I mean, obviously, every coaching staff, you want to have good coordinators and everything like that. But I mean, do you? I don't know. Maybe.
I'll tell you an assistant coach that made a good decision. Tom Brady, Super Bowl 53.
Yes.
Remember the Patriots were up 7,
Yeah.
and they were down around the 28 of the Rams, and Belichick wasn't sure what to do, and Brady came over and said, "Just kick the field goal," and it put them up 13-3. So, Belichick was kind of leaning on going for it, or I don't know what he was thinking of doing, and Brady said, "Just kick it."
I would say
it would be up 10, but Brady may have been the decider there. So Steve, I think he also deserves credit for coaching one of those Super Bowls.
Yes, but I also well, trust me, you're not going to get too much. I thought you were going to talk about this past weekend and Brady's coaching.
I'm buttering you up.
Yeah, I know. Well, I you were talking about this past weekend and Brady's coaching decisions then. But in that situation,
credit for a lot of these.
Yeah, well, I think in that situation that you point out, I think that's more of a situation of, great coaches take input. Like, I'm not saying that great coaches just make every decision blindly against their staff. No, I think great coaches know when to take the right input, and that's what Belichick is. But if you need someone to essentially make those decisions and hold Brandon Staley's hand throughout the process, that's when I feel like maybe he's just not ready. And look, I mean, that's not the only situation where it makes me feel like he's not ready. I mean, just look at his coaching decision throughout the season, makes me think, okay, maybe this isn't quite the gig for him. And
well, they're hiring these guys too soon. I mean, they're hiring the guy, like the guy's a coordinator for 1 year, and all of a sudden he's a head coach. And I swear that this is not something new. If you're a decent looking guy, you've got a better chance of getting a job than a not so decent looking guy. If you're kind of dynamic. Look at Sean McVay, right? I'm sure Sean McVay blew everybody away in the interview process. I'm sure Jim Caldwell, who I have no clue why he's not a head coach in the NFL, right? I mean, he got the Lions to the playoffs twice in 4 years. He went to the Super Bowl with Indianapolis, yes, with Peyton Manning, and he did lose, but that seems to be a pretty decent head coach. Look what he did as the offensive coordinator in Baltimore the year they won the Super Bowl in 2012. He was the offensive coordinator. He got great play out of Joe Flacco. Why isn't he a head coach? I don't think he interviews well. He's kind of a quiet, unassuming guy who's in his 60s. Meanwhile, here comes Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, it's the
right out of GQ, and everybody's like, "Oh, look at these guys."
Well, and it's also the infatuation with the offense and everything like that, because it is an offensive game. But the problem is the priorities are so misguided in this league. Everyone thinks that the running quarterback is the next thing, and I'm thinking like, okay, the two best quarterbacks in the league are not, Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, I don't think he's a running. He can run, but he's not a running quarterback. Certainly not in the mold that we're seeing. Like, guys come into the league and how it's portrayed as the next, thing in court. Well, how long have we been hearing that, John? Like the athletic quarterback is the next, and year after year after year, it's the same thing. It's yes. Some of them have some really good seasons here and there, but is it sustainable? No. And does it ever really surpass what a great pocket passer can be? No. Because I think if you can master the pocket, then you've mastered the quarterback position. And I don't think any level of athleticism outside the pocket can make up for that. So, which again makes it not surprising that the oldest quarterback in the league, John, has finished instead of
I
record.
think someone's at my. I think someone's at my door.
Oh yes, yeah. No. Don't worry. You're not. I know. You've been dreading. You've been dreading this since about 6:30, 7 o'clock yesterday evening when it
man.
finally hit you. It finally hit you.
He started 2 for 5 from the field. I'm like, are they going to take him out? 5 from the field, like a basketball in my brain. He was 2 or 5, and they were down early. I'm like, okay, he'll play a half, and then
a
take him out.
93-yard, just direct throw. I mean, he just shredded that. And after that, it was just he was on fire. A little bit of breaking news actually before we get into this. Brian Flores just got fired by the Dolphins.
Whoa!
Yeah, that was actually. I saw Matt Nagy. Obviously, Ron Zimmer Zimmer got fired in Minnesota. But just came across the screen over here. Dolphins fire Brian Flores, and little surprising, not entirely, but despite the big win yesterday, when you have losing streaks in multiple seasons that are quite extensive, that's a coaching issue. And we talked about this early, right around when they started to get hot and his name started to be mentioned among Coach of the Year. And my contention and my pushback to that was, as great as the 7-game winning streak is, they still lost 7 games at the beginning of the season. And that's I mean, I don't care what you do after that. That's a tough thing to overcome. And it's a pattern with this team. And this is another point that I brought up, that maybe there's a little bit less pressure. Maybe it's a little bit easier for you to win a bunch of games in a row when you're, for the most part, out of it in November.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So as great as it was that they were able to kind of get themselves back into the mix here late, it really was not as great of a season, or at least a great look for this coaching staff. So little surprising, yes. Ultimately, I'm not that shocked that he
should they fire the guy who drafted Tua instead of Justin Herbert as well? That's franchise altering, right? I mean, you put Justin Herbert on that team, they're a playoff team, as opposed to, because they got a really good defense and they're not running that god awful offense with Tua. I can't watch. I'm not a big fan of Mac Jones, and I'm less of a fan of Tua. I can't watch that because I'm convinced he's not left-handed. I think he lost the bet somewhere, and he has to throw left-handed to make up for the bet, because he is just, oh my lord. I mean, we had more explosiveness when I was 12 years old playing in my driveway. I mean, there's like nothing that they do that excites me. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised, and maybe Flores will be back in Foxborough this week to help the Patriots for the playoff game against Buffalo.
You never know.
Why not?
That should be fun.
The Dolphins are paying him, and Belichick can use them to try to beat the Bills.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that. But John, I don't want to get too away from the point that I was starting to make and getting to. And I know you're hoping maybe I forgot about it, but I didn't. I slept really good last night, John. You know why? Because I've never been more confident in knowing that Tom Brady is the MVP of this league. And we've seen it happen over the last couple weeks. We've seen kind of, what would you classify Aaron Rodgers' play over the last few weeks?
Last few weeks?
Yeah, pretty good, and with a mix of.
I think I'd say really good. I mean, I thought his game against Minnesota was outstanding, right?
I think for a half, right? I mean, like there's.
No, Minnesota was their best.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was thinking, like, if you go
and
back.
I thought he played pretty well yesterday. I mean, he only played a half, but he still had them.
I mean, he was
in the game.
He was all right.
He was all right. I mean,
he was all right.
14 for 18 with 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's not bad.
Well, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's like when you look at, it felt very empty to me. And maybe again, chalk this up to being a little bit biased. It's fine. But
just a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Because like, how do you? So, like, I mean, if you look at his passing chart, I think he threw 2 passes beyond the 10-yard line. And look, I'm not this isn't an indictment to him, but when you have as many playmakers on this Packers team, and that we've seen it happen throughout the entire season. Devontae Adams does a lot of heavy lifting for this team. I mean, he's
great.
Yeah, he's great.
Wide receiver.
He's
great.
The
best wide receiver in football.
He's phenomenal. It just, to me, I'm looking at it, and it's like Tom Brady was clearly a better quarterback yesterday than Aaron Rodgers. Although, again, passer rating, which is crazy as it is, Aaron Rodgers had a better passer rating than Tom Brady yesterday, which again is kind of absurd. I mean, it's just kind of speaks to how silly that stat is. But that's kind of what Aaron Rodgers thing is. He's a 2 touchdowns, a handful of yards type of guy. Protect the ball. That's the type of season he had. No problem. Was he the MVP last year? Absolutely. Should he be the MVP this year? Absolutely not. Because Tom, 43 touchdowns, 53.
Well, you're on a first name basis with
yeah. No, well, I've been trying. I write letters. I haven't got one back yet, but I kind of feel like. Did you see that clip? Did you see that clip of him handing that hat to the little kid at the game a couple weeks ago? But then, but there's the other kid that he basically snubbed. That's kind of me. That's how I feel right now. But it's okay. It's all right. I understand. It's all right. I'm a 35-year-old man. It's kind of weird, but
that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyways, I mean, over 5,300 yards. He breaks his own personal record. It's third most in the history of the NFL. Okay, he's the second quarterback to obviously throw multiple 5,000-yard seasons. He's doing this, and this is the big thing, John. Like, people have been making the argument and pounding the desk, not like Skip. I might pound the desk a little bit later, but we'll see how it goes. It's all natural when it comes to me. The people have been pounding the desk about efficiency. Oh my God, Aaron Rodgers on a per play basis, this, that, and the other. I'm like, great, awesome. I don't care about what his numbers project to be. I care about what happened. And the reality of it is, Tom Brady was relied upon far more. And the number, I mean, just the raw numbers shake that out. He was relied far more by the Buccaneers than Aaron Rodgers was by the Packers. And not only did he deliver, but he maintained the absolute same level of efficiency. And if you want to say, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers' EPA is 2.5 and Brady's is 2.2, I don't care. To me, that difference is so marginal, especially for a number that had Jimmy G as the third best quarterback entering the week. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of pushback. Not to mention, John, EPA, and it's not a coincidence, all these numbers that Aaron Rodgers has a very slim lead in, either don't necessarily account for things like drops, like EPA. There's no accommodating 19 more drops, because guess what? That affects efficiency and these efficiency metrics. So of course Tom Brady is going to take a hit from that. Of course his completion percentage is going to be 1% lower than Aaron Rodgers with 19 more drops and throwing the ball 190 more times. Like, people want to knock him for throwing more.
Well, you should have more drops if you throw the ball more, right? I mean, I've just
but even the percentages.
I think Brandon Staley can figure that out.
Even the percentages, 3% higher on Brady's drop percentage than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been one of the more fortunate quarterbacks in that department the entire season. So we're not talking about 4 or 5 drop difference where you can essentially be like, all right, that's kind of moot. I mean, that's a hard number difference to parse, but 19, 20, I mean, like, if Aaron Rodgers had 20 drops this season, he would probably be in the top 10 of all quarterbacks. And that's the difference between the two. And that's what I'm saying. In all these numbers, like, Aaron Rodgers right now finished the season 0.3 higher in QBR. Can you honestly say that? Yeah, well, again, I'm sure a lot of Packers fans are too, because they're going to cling to that. But the reality of it is, do you really think holding a 0.3 QBR lead over a quarterback who has thrown more than you and has produced more than you is an actual advantage? Especially, again, this is where this missing the Kansas City game comes into play. He missed one of his toughest games of the season. And
it wouldn't have been his toughest game of the season because Kansas City's defense was god-awful at that point.
God-awful, whatever. They're the number 2 seed in the AFC, and he did not play that game. So
they weren't at the time.
They are right now.
4 at the time.
They are right now.
He played them in October.
Who cares?
Played them 2 months ago.
Who cares?
When you play a team matters.
No, it doesn't.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't really matter in the long run, especially when you're trying to give him credit when he didn't play. Like, that's part of the argument for him was, oh, look at the Packers with Jordan Love, or
are we going to do this for the next month?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
if you're gonna tell me that him missing, if you're going to sit here and tell me that him missing that game doesn't matter in this race, then I am absolutely going to push back, because at a race this close, which I don't necessarily think it's close, but it's not close. It's obvious close. Like, it's close. It's going to be like, oh, this is a close race, but Tom Brady should obviously be the MVP, because, again, we're talking about a very slim margin of success over Brady in certain stats. We're not even talking about all efficiency stats. We have certain efficiency stats that say Tom Brady's been better. So you're not you, but Packers fans and the pro Rodgers crowd are focusing in on a handful of stats that, not coincidentally, John, not coincidentally, are so heavily impacted by the drop totals and this idea that is the raw interception numbers are be all end all. Oh my God! I mean, he has 12 interceptions. He has 4. Well, guess what? Tom Brady has fewer turnover worthy plays. And if you're going to put a lot of stock in these efficiency numbers and they completely ignore something that's a little bit less subjective, they're all subjective. But when you're talking about simply determining which passes are catchable and dropped, or which passes are thrown that should be turned over, I mean, I think it can be subjective, yes. But like if you're going to dismiss that number and then put all your stock in these marginal advantages, then to me it's just it doesn't make sense, because you're basically framing the argument exactly how you want it and ignoring everything else.
Now, in 2010, Brady was a unanimous MVP, right? Got all 50 votes, or was it 48 at the time? Okay. So he had 3,900 yards, 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, deserved the MVP without question. Rodgers has had a pretty similar year to what Brady had in 2010, right? Like, took care of the football, the team won beyond expectations. I mean, the Patriots in 2010 were 14-2. They didn't feel like a 14-2 team, but they were because of him. And Brady won the MVP that year. Do you know where he was in passing yards that year?
What, with the 3,900?
Yeah, in 2010, he was 8th in the league. So I mean, but he deserved the MVP. No one put that back. I mean, like, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, both who made the playoffs, had more passing yards. Phillip Rivers, who went 9-7, more passing yards. So I think sometimes the passing yards.
But here, this is the huge thing, though, John. You're completely leaving something out, which is crucial. Tom Brady led the league in passing touchdowns that year. And that was more than Phillip Rivers. Right. It was more than Peyton Manning. And in this situation, he has not only the passing yards mark, which we're not talking about like 300-400. We're 1,201 yards more. Like, that is a significantly large.
And Rivers had 800 more than Brady back in 2010.
Yes, again, but he didn't have more touchdowns. So again, he went 9-7. And Peyton Manning went 10-6. So there's a lot of factors. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady had the same number of wins. Aaron Rodgers has 1,200 fewer yards. Tom Brady has 6 more passing touchdowns. And again, all these efficiency metrics are
eight fewer interceptions. Again, that's going to be a big part of this. And again, I know drop passes and playoff whatever.
Well, that's the thing. You can't selectively choose which stats matter. I'm telling you that, like, yes,
that's
Aaron
pretty
Rodgers,
big, isn't it?
What, the drops? Yeah, absolutely.
Interceptions? Yeah, drops are, but so are interceptions.
Yeah, but again, but you're framing it as if the turnover worthy plays metric doesn't matter. Like, if we really want to get an accurate take of how these two protect the ball, and we've both said it the entire season, they're the best at keeping the ball protected. But if Aaron Rodgers' entire case hinges on the 8 raw interception total, then it is the most fraudulent case for MVP that I've ever heard in my life, because to me, the hands down winner in this is Tom Brady. And again, if you want to point to these raw interceptions, well, again, 19-20 drop difference, guess what? That is a bigger factor than these interceptions, because, like, I mean, again, like, I love how interceptions, and again, just to be safe, I'm not talking about you, John. Never I would talk about you. I'm talking about the collective, the group.
Thank you.
As much as people are complaining about the total passing attempts, you know what's funny that I haven't heard? Not one of those people that are saying that, oh, well, of course Tom Brady has more yards because he throws more. Not one of them is saying, well, maybe he has more interceptions because he throws more.
Oh, I've said
what?
Yeah,
John, I'm not talking about you. You're reasonable. You're well thought out. You're wise. Mostly. I'm buttering you up a little bit here.
I'm saying what you're saying is I'm old.
Yes, essentially. One way or the other.
You're right, though.
But yeah, exactly. Because I'm wise and I'm getting old. But no, that's the thing. It drives me. It's very I said it yesterday. No one does selective stat usage quite like Packers and pro Rogers fans. Like they will shamelessly pick, and not only that, John, but like when I present the information, I like to not only put the ranks among quarterbacks or teams or whatever, but I also like to put the numbers because like rankings can be very misleading. Like
Mhm.
the Bucks went from the 12th points per game defense all the way to the 5th just from yesterday.
Right.
So like again, raw rankings and the difference between 5th and 14th is a total of 12 points. And that's what the Packers and so
Yeah.
again, it very misleading. So I like to put both. So like when you list a bunch of stats where again, completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, QBR, and first Rodgers. Well, guess what? Again, Aaron Rodgers is first, yeah, in QBR by 0.3 over Tom Brady. So is that really pro Rodgers? Is it? Is it? I mean, is it enough to outweigh what we've seen from Tom Brady? And I say emphatically no. And again, if you're going to present the case for Aaron Rodgers, well, present all the information because if you don't, then it just looks like you're being very obtuse. I love using that word. I love that movie, Shawshank
Oh, that's
Redemption.
a great word.
I'm gonna probably watch that later just because I said that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you get the same retort by a lot of these Packers folks. It's passing completion percentage. Again, something that is so directly impacted by drop passes, it's almost laughable when I come back and say, hey, but what about drop? Oh, it doesn't matter. Well, of course it doesn't matter to you because it hurts your case. So to me, I like I said, if he does not walk away with this award, it would be one of the biggest robberies of the award, in my opinion, in NFL history. And that's not to say that this isn't a close race. I just think it's a close but quite very obvious winner in all of this.
How can it be close and be an obvious winner? I like that.
Well, because I mean, these two quarterbacks have been going head to head the entire season. We both agree with that. I don't think any of us. I didn't buy into John.
I watch every night.
Yeah, I didn't buy into Jonathan Taylor. I didn't buy into all these other guys. I always thought it was these two, but I've always thought that Brady was in the lead. I thought Rodgers did a very nice job of really, pushing him here the last few weeks. But like even the last two weeks, Brady's been better. And Rodgers got so much credit for having a really nice stretch of games against some bad defenses. Let's say what it is. I mean, that's another.
But you just said that one defense went from 12th to 5th because of one game.
That's why I'm saying. But I'm not using points per game to judge those defenses. I'm using things like DVOA, which ranks defenses much more than just points per game. So they take.
But you want to use DVOA, but you don't want to use DP. You should actually like Brandon. You should like Brandon Staley.
No, I don't.
Sounds like a conversation with him.
No, I don't. No, I've used DVOA. I've used EPA. I've looked at pass defenses, rush defenses. I mean, by every metric that you look at it, Tom Brady's had a tougher schedule, and it's not me being objective. I mean, it's just what it is. The data is there. It's presented, and it's pretty you can't argue against it. And like I said, in a situation like this, in an MVP race like this. It matters. It matters, especially when, again, the biggest case for Aaron Rodgers is, oh, well, he's got a 0.3 lead in QBR, so he's more efficient. Well, if you want to die on that hill, by all means, go for it. But to me, it's like trying to hold together a metal structure with a piece of string. I mean, one little pull and that thing's falling apart, and that's where we are right now. With this.
You have to get your numbers to the 50 voters. That's what you got to find out.
I've been working. Trust me, I've been working it, man. I've been working. I've been doing my best. And look, I think the reality of it is I think voters are going to probably lean more towards that because I think the loudest people, including myself, I will consider myself one of the loudest, but some of the loudest from the opposite end don't necessarily have any influence in the MVP race. It's a lot of fandom and it's a lot of bias going into it. And that's fine. And look, again, I'm never going to sit here and pretend that I'm completely unbiased. I don't think anyone is unbiased. Everyone has their fan allegiances. I mean, that's just what it is. But I've been looking at this entire situation very objectively, and I feel like I've presented both sides of the argument, both advantages, as opposed to, trying to skirt and avoid certain situations. So to me, I think at the end of the day, this is going to be an absolute slam dunk choice, I think, for voters. I think they're going to look at this and say, you know what, how do we do this? How do we not give this guy the MVP and sit here and explain away his massive advantage in a lot of these other situations, whether it's passing yards, touchdowns, all this stuff. So yeah, that's my thought.
That sounds good. I think obviously February 10th, the award will be doled out, which is also the NBA trade deadline, and which is also the Thursday before the Super Bowl, which is also 10 days or 11 days after, I think, Rodgers and Brady are going to meet again for the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. So yeah, the next month should be quite interesting if they go head to head. I mean, I hope that's what happens. Well, I really don't hope that's what happens. I hope someone beats Tampa before that, because I don't want to see him strolling into Lambeau Field, frightened of him. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's going to be. I think the results are going to be close. I mean, I've said this a million times. What is and what should be are two totally different things. You think it should be a slam dunk, but I think in the end it's going to be very, very close. I just want to hear the reasoning behind anybody voting for anybody but these two guys, whether it's Cooper Kupp or Jonathan Taylor or Joe Burrow. I can kind of buy into a little bit, but even then, I think he's a distant third behind these two guys. I mean, they play the position better. Their teams are better. Therefore, they're more valuable. But I mean, I think Burrow at some point is going to win an MVP in his career.
It seems like it. I mean, certainly on that trajectory. So
yeah.
So we're certainly going to have a lot to talk about. And I think at this point, though, John, maybe you and I can both agree on this. If he does win the MVP award, my name should be right there on it with him. Just saying.
Oh,
I'm just saying that
yes.
maybe it might not be good for my big ego, but I would certainly.
You're not far away from where he lives and plays, and Alex Guerrero. If he wins the MVP, I think you should get $100,000 credit with Alex Guerrero, because obviously AB has got his issues with Alex Guerrero. I think $100,000 worth of massages from Alex Guerrero is well worth it if he wins the MVP. That seems fair.
All right, yeah, I can do that. Although I'd much rather just have 100,000. Yeah,
exactly.
Whatever, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Hey, John, this is a family show. This is the family show.
That's right. Yes. Well, the Manson family, apparently.
Yeah. Manson family, Adams family, one of these families. One of these messed up families, all in the family. Well, maybe not that. No, we're not that level.
No.
Nastiness. But all right, folks, thank you very much. We will actually probably be back on Wednesday. We're going to take a day off tomorrow, and we'll kind of reconvene and get things going then again on Wednesday. So, folks, enjoy the last couple days of sanity, because the playoffs get started on Saturday, and we're going to talk a lot about them coming up the rest of the week. So, everyone, have a great day, and we will